no one here. That's okay. I'm not going to start off right away. I'll give everybody a few minutes. I know I'm a little bit late. Things happen. So that'll give me a minute to get things situated. I don't like... I don't know how I can get close enough to get my TV out of it. It's shaking. Let's see. I did want it a little lower so that... Oh, let's get comfortable. Alrighty, comfortable. There we go. Well, I know some people might watch this on the replay, so I'll go over some things I found out about while I was researching. I found a whole site. I found a whole website that goes over all the changes that David Miscavige has made to all of L. Ron Hubbard's works. It goes through every... I don't know who had that kind of time. So you can go to each book and go through what was changed. That's one of the reasons I got pre-2007. One of the things that I liked that it said was in the golden age, what did he call it? The golden age of tech, or the speech he gave in 2007 when he wanted to re-release everything. The person talking about it said that in veiled jokes, he was putting L. Ron Hubbard down, and that he hates L. Ron Hubbard. Well, I don't know why. I mean, he came into... I can't remember David Miscavige he was born in, or was at least young. So, I mean, he grew up with L. Ron Hubbard, but I guess to be the new leader... I mean, he's narcissistic, so he would hate the previous leader, because at that time, there were still a lot of people still there that loved L. Ron Hubbard. And they, you know, if you watch even when he's given Tom Cruise his award, they all turn, salute L. Ron Hubbard and everything. So L. Ron Hubbard is hanging over David Miscavige's head for the most part. I think that fan is actually moving my camera. Let's see if I can fix that. Well, hello. You're the only one here, Fluffer. Thanks, I appreciate it. Okay. I think my fan is making my... I appreciate the like. I figure people can watch it on the replay. It's not that exciting stuff, so I'll be happy if I get a handful. So... Plus, I'm going through highlights and things, so... Anyway, I was saying that David Miscavige truly hates L. Ron Hubbard. And the person who wrote this, I'm going to put it in the description if I can get the link right. So you can go at least read that part of it. There's actually different places you need to go. There's different pages. So you go to the original article, then you go to... the list of all the works, then you go to Dianetics, open that up, and then that'll show you the changes in Dianetics. I'm going to go over it a little bit harder before, because I really just found it, and I'm going to go through it before I go through a chapter to show the differences, because like I said, he said prior to the 80s. So was he changing works before 2007? He said things in the article like, this is what David Miscavige said. He goes, well, there were several people on the editing team and things weren't edited correctly and, you know, a whole bunch of bullshit so that he could make more money. So I want to go over that a little bit more with you guys, but I only have it up on my phone that I'm recording on right now. So next time I'll have it up on my computer so I can read from it a lot better. So I wanted to start, let me go back. There was that one line in How to Read This Book that I'm going to start every session with, and I didn't underline it, so give me just a second. It was how they would be plain spoken, and it was just such a joke. Basic language, here it is. Let's see. Yeah, this is it. Alright, so I'm going to start with this, and this is what he says in How to Read the Book, which, honestly, How to Read the Book was the most confusing part of what I've read so far. But he says this: when one is delivering answers which are simple, he need not make the communication any more difficult than is necessary to convey the ideas. Basic language, in quotation marks, has been used. Much of the nomenclature is colloquial. The pedantic has not only not been employed, it has also been ignored. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. We all know that's... He uses big words in the sentence that he's not going to use big words. And trust me, he uses big words. All right. So we're in chapter 2, which is called The Clear. Now, going clear seems to me as a never end, is pretty much the basics or basis of Scientology. So I had to leave some things out that you didn't need, because he expands on things that he says. We don't need that part. So I tried to keep the most important parts about going clear and what he explains it to be. And what's interesting, I really, you know what, later on, I'm going to see if somebody who was in the church, I've started to work StreamYards, and I'm trying to figure out how to bring somebody in. I would love to sit and really talk about the going clear part. They've talked about it, and they talk about that you have to be clear, but nobody has, well, that I've seen. There's so many channels out there, I may have missed something. But I really want to expound on this going clear because it's the first chapter of Dianetics. So it was the basis of the reason we're doing this is to find out why were so many people interested in Scientology after reading Dianetics, or back in the day they were Dianetics centers. And it does talk about in the stuff I found online that it was they taught you pretty much how to work what was in this book in Dianetics centers. So where we don't understand things, other people probably didn't either. But they went to these Dianetics centers and took classes, and they're like, oh, and I don't know, they liked it. So I'm going to go ahead and start in. I know being an hour late, the people that probably would have tuned in probably aren't. I couldn't get it together by 3. Okay, The Clear. The first paragraph I'm going to read in full. Dianetically, is that a word, or did he make that up? Okay. Dianetically, the optimum individual is called the clear. One will hear much of that word, both as a noun and a verb, in this volume, so it is well to spend time here at the outset setting forth exactly what can be called a clear, the goal of Dianetic therapy. And like I said, we've heard so much about the clear or going clear that this is probably the most important part we'll read, I hope. It's the most important part. Hopefully. So, like I said, I'm not going to read every paragraph, every sentence. It's not necessary. So, a clear can be tested for any and all psychosis, neurosis, compulsions, and repressions, all aberrations. Remember that because he uses the word aberries. I think he made that up too. A lot. So he's saying that all psychosis, neurosis, compulsions, and repressions are aberrations and can be examined for any autogenic, self-generated diseases referred to as psychosomatic ills. These tests confirm the clear to be entirely without such ills or aberrations. So he's saying that if you go clear, you have no more aberrations. Pretty much you're perfect, I would assume. That gets interesting when he starts talking about glasses and hearing problems. That gets interesting. Dianetic therapy to the end of clearing these neurosis and ills. So he's saying Dianetic therapy, when they get to the end of clearing, the neurosis and ills will be gone. So what they believe in Scientology is if they go clear, they shouldn't have any more physical or mental disabilities. So you shouldn't need to wear glasses. He gets into that. It's very interesting. First, there is the matter of perceptions. Even so-called normal people do not always see in full color, hear in full tone, or sense at the optimum with their organs of smell, taste, tactile, and organic sensation. These are the main lines of communication to the finite world, which most people recognize as reality. Okay? Down here, in other words, while there may be nothing wrong with the mechanisms of color reception, circuits can exist in the mind which delete color before the consciousness is permitted to see the object. Color blindness can be discovered to be relative or in degrees in such a way that colors appear to be less brilliant, dull, or at the maximum entirely absent. So he's saying that color blindness is due to your mind. So, of course, he talks about that a lot, of course. That's his thing, is the mind. There are those persons to whom noises are quite disturbing. So now he's talking about your hearing. In a like manner, from person to person, smells, tactile sensations, organic perceptions, pain and gravity vary widely and wildly. A cursory check around amongst his friends will demonstrate to a man that there exist enormous differences of perception of identical stimuli. One smells a turkey in the oven as wonderful. One smells it with indifference. Another may not smell it at all. And somebody else may maintain that roasting turkey smells exactly like hair oil to be extreme. And he talks about that with all the sensations. I didn't go into all the details. Until we obtain clears, it remains obscure why such differences should exist. So, he said it remains obscure why such differences should exist until you obtain clear. So when you obtain clear, you find out why there are differences, because you're not clear, because you haven't done what L. Ron Hubbard told you to. So, let me get my drink. Hold on. It's too far away. I didn't get set up the same way I was last time, and I think I like the way I was set up last time. Oh, and somebody told me when... Oh, I'm so sorry this keeps shaking, guys. It's my original. I'm going to have to figure out how to use... Dang it, I'm not even moving. It's the selfie stick I have it on. It's very flimsy. God, that's got to be annoying. I didn't use my good gimbal because I guess I could put it in lock mode, but it's probably more stable. And it's literally sitting on a milk crate. Not a milk crate. A wooden crate on its end. So the crate itself probably isn't that stable. So anyway, let's get back to where we were. Oh, there it is. Okay. Anyway, somebody told me to burn sage because this, and I actually have sage sitting over here, just to be funny. So all right. So what he just said was that all of our senses perceive differently from person to person, and it's all in the mind. There's nothing wrong with our nose. There's nothing wrong with our eyes or our hearing. So the clear gets a maximum response compatible with his own desire for the response. Burning cordite still smells dangerous to him, but it does not make him ill. Okay, so you still smell it, but not in a weird way, I guess, is what he means. In other words, there are two variables at work. One, the wildest, is the variable caused by aberrations. The other, and quite rational and understandable, is caused by the personality. So now he's saying, okay, so it's caused by either aberrations or your personality. I know, Fluffer. I mean, the reason I wanted to read this is to try to understand why so many people find it interesting or something that they need. And I can like I said, just like before, I can understand how somebody in need who has problems can maybe read this or go to a Dianetics center or even now Scientology if they're told that, you know, they can fix you. He's pretty much saying that anything wrong with you, we can fix. So I can understand how, but here it gets into a little bit more about aberrations and it's all in the mind. So explain to me why they don't want anything to do with mental patients or especially, well, they don't. What's funny is he talks about the senses in the mind. He doesn't talk about physical disabilities, at least not yet. I haven't gotten there. I'm only reading the chapters I have to when I have to. So there's a reason. I think the reason that he shunned physical disabilities is he couldn't, in reality, fix them. He can get into your brain and tell you that, okay, I can help you see better, or smell better, or feel better in your mind. But he never really talks about from the neck down. I noted. At least in this chapter, he didn't. So, alright, let's go on. So, thus the perceptions of an aberree, non-cleared individual. So an aberree is a non-clear. Thus the perceptions of an aberree vary greatly from those of the cleared, unaberrated individual. Boy, I love his words. Are these even words? I really should sit and look these up, because sometimes he puts definitions at the bottom, but they're of words that have definitions. So the fact that aberree isn't at the foot of the page anywhere means most likely he made that crap up. Like, you know how he likes to make up words. Now there are the differences of the actual organs of perception and the errors occasioned by these. Some of these errors, a minimum, are organic, punctured eardrums are not competent sound recording mechanisms. The majority of perception sense message errors in the organic sphere are caused by psychosomatic errors. So, okay, so he's saying if you have a punctuated eardrum, they're not competent. My dogs are barking. I hope my husband doesn't wake up and let them out. The majority of perceptic sense message is in parentheses. The majority of perceptic... Is perceptic a word? Perceptic errors in the organic sphere are caused by psychosomatic errors. So he's saying your psyche, your mind, is creating errors in smell, taste, sight, and hearing. Now, I had to read this whole, it's a long paragraph about glasses, but it's so ridiculous, I had to read it. All right. Glasses are seen on noses everywhere around, even on children. The majority of these spectacles are perched on the face in an effort to correct a condition which the body itself is fighting to uncorrect again. Eyesight, when the stage of glasses is entered, not because of glasses, is deteriorating on the psychosomatic principle. And this observation is about as irresponsible as a statement that when apples fall out of trees, they usually obey gravity. He's saying when apple falls out of a tree, they usually obey gravity is an irresponsible statement. Ooh. All right. One of the incidental things which happened to a clear is that his eyesight, if it had been bad as an aberree, generally improves markedly, and with some slight attention will recover optimum perception in time. So he's saying you're not going to need glasses anymore. He goes on. Far from an optician's argument against Dianetics, this assures rather good business. For clears have been known at treatment's end to have to buy in rapid succession 5 pairs of glasses to compensate adjusting eyesight. And many aberrees cleared late in life settle down ocularly at a maximum a little under optimum. So he's saying you're going to have to buy 5 pairs of glasses as your eyesight improves after you go clear. I would like to know from ex-members how many people actually were able to get rid of glasses, or if they were forced to get rid of glasses even though their eyesight didn't get better. I mean, these are things that you can physically prove are not real. That you can physically prove to yourself your eyesight's not getting better even though you're clear. I'd like to see if some of that has been taken out of this book by David Miscavige, because he knows it's complete bullshit. Okay. He goes on to say the same thing about hearing. The body will readjust. Differences in hearing on the organic basis. Organically as well as aberrationally, hearing can become remarkably extended or closely inhibited, so that one person may hear footsteps a block away as a normal activity, and another would not hear a bass drum thundering on the porch. Oh, wait a minute. I as well as aberrationally hearing. Oh, I thought he was talking about hearing being improved. An entirely new recall process, which was inherent in the mind, but which had not been noticed, came to light in the process of observing clears and aberries. This recall process is possible in only a small proportion of aberries in its fullest sense. What a clear can do easily, quite a few people have from time to time been partially able to do in the past. So he's saying some people from time to time have been able to do it before he gave Dianetics out. An inherent, not a taught, ability of the remembering mechanism of the mind can be termed, as a technical word of Dianetics, returning. Remember that, returning. So now he's going to talk about remembering. So we're past the physical aspects. The person can send, in quotation, a portion of his mind to a past period on either a mental or combined mental and physical basis, and can re-experience incidents which have taken place in his past in the same fashion and with the same sensation as before. It was known as hypnotism once upon a time, and is called and used regression. So he's what we would used to call regression, he's calling returning. Regression was a technique by which part of the individual self remained in the present and part went back to the past. The art is very old, tracing back some thousands of years and existing today in Asia as it has existed apparently from the dawn of time. So he's saying that regression has been around for thousands of years. Returning is substituted for regression here. So he's changing terms again and making up his own words. So returning means regression. The mind then has another ability to remember. Part of the mind can return even when a person is wide awake and re-experience past incidents in full. If you want to test this, try it on several people until one is discovered who does it easily. Wide awake, he can return to moments in his past. Until asked to do so, he probably will not know he has such ability. Okay. So, and he just talks about that a lot. About discovering abilities. Returning is the full performance of imagery recall. The entire memory is able to make the organ areas resense the stimuli in a past incident. Partial recall in common, not common enough to be normal, but certainly common enough to have merited considerable study, for it again is a wide variable. His words hit my head. It's like reading a textbook that wasn't edited. That's what it feels like. I don't need my pen. Didn't need my water. Oh. Alrighty. Alright, so he was discussing returning is the full performance of imagery recall. Okay, so I wasn't going to read this part, but I want to. So, he says, and if it is agreed that facing reality is desirable, then one would have to face yesterday's reality as well if he were to be considered entirely sane by contemporary definition. So, if you can't recall or return, you're not sane. I'm not sure what he means there. To face yesterday requires a certain condition of recall to be available. One would have to be able to remember, but how many ways are there of remembering? I thought there was only one, but we'll see what he says. First, there is the return. This is new. It gives the advantage of examining the moving pictures and other sense perceptions recorded at the time of the event with all senses present. And he goes on to say, you should be able to recall an event with sight, taste, smell, sound, which honestly I've never been able to do. These faculties vary widely in the aberree. So they vary widely in the aberree, but if you're clear, you should be able to do it. And you know, we talk about how people say they were clear in a past life. So they're supposed to be able to remember their past lives, I guess, when they go clear. He'll probably get into that in another part of the book. Probably doesn't want to hit you with that right away. When told to think of a ship, some aberrees only see a flat, colorless, still picture, such as a painting of a ship or a photograph of one. Some perceive a vessel in motion without color, but with sound. Some hear the sound of a ship, but fail to see any picture whatever. There's examples, I suppose, of how they vary widely in an aberree. Some past observers have called this imagery. But the term is so inapplicable to sound and touch, organic sensation and pain, that recall is used uniformly as the technical Dianetic term. Okay, so now it's recall. A recall, which is to include pain, temperature, rhythm, taste, and weight with the above mentioned sight, sound, tactile, and smell. Hi, Lisa. Yeah. So he's getting into returning or recall of past memories, which will probably in turn turn into what we know are engrams, what he considers engrams. I think are they engrams only when they're bad? We'll find out. We still have all of this to read. The Dianetics names for these recalls are visio. So, okay, he's changing words again. Hi, Lisa. I'm okay, but I haven't left my house. I just got my inhalers on Friday, finally, but it has been so ridiculously humid for Texas, and the rain and the storms and we were standing out on the porch. If I filmed it, I don't remember. I need to look. The rain was going sideways because our son, who lives about 30 miles to the west, so the storm was going towards the east. So he texted me and said, we got hail again. And we never got the hail. But then Temple, which is, as the crow flies, 20 to 30 miles to the east, got horrible tornadoes. Horrible tornadoes. Luckily, for some reason, right where I sit, they always go around to the north and go that way. So thank goodness. Anyway, I've been good. Been stuck. I will say this. Let me take a break. Just give y'all a break. I miss going to Austin. Somebody asked me if I got burnt out. Now, not going for a week, more than a week, it's been hard. I'm off schedule. I'm not getting outside. I'm not getting exercise. My whole system feels out of whack. because I was getting out of the house, I was going outside, and it really was a positive. So going to Austin, even though it's a long drive, I mean, and I had time in the car. I always listen to Natalie's recap or anybody else, or that maybe I didn't get to hear, or I'll just pop on somebody who's live. Usually I do that on the way home because they're usually not out that early. Weather is so nuts. Glad you began. Thanks, Lisa. For here, it's nuts. I mean, we're weird in Texas because we don't get winter. Our winter is rain. We get winter tornadoes. If because we have days you can wear a t-shirt in January and then the next day it's freezing. No joke. It can be weird when we get out of routine, right? Yes. And so I've been going since February. I can't remember the exact date. So I've been going at least 3 times a week since February. And it's now almost June. And since 2010 when I got sick, I haven't been outside at all. I haven't done anything on it with a routine. Well, this shows you how out of routine I am because my husband works nights. His off nights Tuesday and Wednesday night. In order to spend any time with him, I'm up till 4 in the morning. So when that happens, I'm out of whack forever. For weeks sometimes. And sometimes I just have to say, you know what? I'm going to bed. I'm going to sleep. And I just don't get to see him much. I was still awake when he got home at 7:15 this morning. So that's why I was late. Because I had to sleep. That's why I was an hour late. I woke up late. So I had to get everything ready. So even my neighbor across the street, she saw Tom outside one day. She goes, so is Kim on her night schedule again? Because I guess she tried to text me or call me and I didn't answer that morning. She's like, yep, she's asleep. So she knows. People that know me know I'm a night. When I say I'm a night out, I popped on the chatathon I was like 3:30 in the morning, I think, here. And I'd been cleaning all night. It was like daytime. I'd cleaned, I'd taken a bath, listened to the chatathon while I was in the bathtub. So, all right. So, let's move on. I did need a break. Thank you. And I miss talking because like I said, my husband's asleep all day. I don't have any friends, y'all. My only friends are on my chat. And it's so cool because our community is so great that you feel like you're long lost friends with somebody you've never met. When me and Cheryl met when she was here a couple weekends ago, we hugged and it was like, oh my gosh, hi, because you finally get to see somebody you've seen from afar for so long, and it was so great. And we don't even we don't talk on the phone, we don't email each other, we just know each other from the community. And I thought that was so much fun. It was so much fun for me because I was calling it the other day. Me and Pearl are on different shifts. I'm on the day shift, she's on the evening shift. So I'm usually by myself. But I've always done a lot of things by myself, so it doesn't bother me that much. Alright, so where were we? Okay. Sight, sound, tactile. Where were we? I think that's where I ended. Oh no, we were getting into the new words. So he has to explain why I don't understand why he just can't use. So he's saying, then there is the Dianetic names for these recalls are Visio or sight, sonic or sound, tactile or touch, olfactory, smell, rhythmic, kinesthetic, weight and motion, somatic, pain, thermal, temperature, organic, internal sensations, and by new definition, emotion. So organic is sensation, emotion. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to come back to this page. I'm going to earmark it. Because we're going to run into those terms and I'm going to forget what they mean. I'll put them in my notes. I should have. When I was just reading it by myself, I kind of don't realize what's important, as important, like something I should write down. And then, but now that I'm reading it to someone else, I realize that's something I might need to write in my notebook. All right, so we have new words now. Then there is another set of mental activities which can be summated under the headings of imagination and creative imagination. Here again is abundant material for testing. And he goes on to talk about that I don't read is how things can be tested. And you can find all of these things out through testing. Imagination is the recombination of things one has sensed, thought, or intellectually computed into existence which do not necessarily have existence. I have a huge imagination. I'm actually writing a book. Been working on it for years though. This is the mind's method of envisioning desirable goals or forecasting futures. Imagination is extremely valuable as a part of essential solutions in any mental problem and in everyday existence. That is, that, that it is recombination in no sense deprives it of its vast and wonderful complexity. When I was reading this the first time, my thought just kept going to how he doesn't allow imagination in Scientology. He doesn't allow you to have your own imagination, your own thoughts. So he talks about it being a good thing, but he doesn't allow it. A clear uses imagination in its entirety. There is an imagination impression for sight, smell, taste, sound, in short, for each one of the possible perceptions. Now, why didn't he use his weird words there? In short, oh, I said that. Okay. The clear, okay, here's where he uses the new words. The clear has, so, okay, so if you're not clear, a clear uses imagination in its entirety. No? There's an imagination impression for sight, smell, taste, sound. And then down here, the clear has full color visio, tone sonic, tactile, olfactory, rhythmic, kinesthetic, thermal, and organic imagination in kind. Asked to envision himself riding in a gilded coach and four, he sees the equipage moving in full color. He hears all the noises which should be present. He smells the smell he thinks should be there, and he feels the upholstery, the motion, and the presence in the coach of himself. Okay, so a clear is supposed to be able to see, smell, taste, everything, feel the motion of the coach in an imaginary scene. This is stuff I never heard from people talk about going clear, because they've never really delved into what going clear entails, unless, remember, they don't, a lot of the second and third gens, I don't even know if they've read this book. They just went right into Scientology. So they only were taught a certain, probably from other books. So it may have been changed. Like I said, David Miscavige changed some things. It said he left out whole chapter. Now this isn't in just this book. In all books, he's left out whole chapters. He's reworded. He's left out intros, things like that. So I'm interested to see what he changed in this book, because this is the only book I am ever going to read that is related to Scientology. When I'm done with this, we're done. But I'm going to have to start doing more than one chapter a week, or we're going to be here for, let's see, how many chapters are there? I didn't think about doing this weekly. Oh, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then you have the intros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, about 30 sections. 30 weeks. I don't know if I want to spend 30 weeks on this. Hopefully we'll hit a few more short chapters, but I don't know. It's pretty thick. Okay, let's go back. So we should be able, he's saying the clear should be able to feel, hear everything in a given imagination. In addition to standard imagination, there is creative imagination. This is a very wide, undimensional ability. But to isolate it as an existing entity, I just kind of skipped a lot of that because he just goes into mumbo jumbo. Finally, there is the last but most important activity of the mind. Man is to be regarded as a sentient being. His sentience depends upon his ability to resolve problems by perceiving or creating and understanding situations. Okay. We're getting close. It's going to be a short one, because I left a lot out. This is rational man. Rationality, as divorced from aberration, can be studied in a cleared person only. Let me repeat that. Rationality, as divorced from aberration, meaning separate from aberration, because if you're clear, you can't have aberration. Hi, Lori. Lisa. Oh. That works out. Risha. Yeah. Yeah, Lisa. I understand. I do the same thing. Hi, Lori. Yeah, I know people can't spend their whole hour, 2 hours, 3 hours with one person. I mean, I can do that if it's, especially if it's like Aaron with Nora or something like that. You know, stuff that we really need to know about. But I'm the same way. Nobody's going to watch somebody live protesting for 3 hours. I mean, maybe some do. That's one of the reasons I never know what's going on in LA, because they go for 4 or 5 hours, especially DOA. And there might be a 30-minute segment in there that's really important. So that's why I love Natalie's show. She really should call her Natalie's morning show, or no, the SPTV morning show, I think, should be what she calls it in the morning. Okay. So, alright, let's go on. Rationality, as divorced from aberration, can be studied in a cleared person only. The aberrations of the aberree give him the appearance of irrationality. Can also be called eccentricity, or human error, or even personal idiosyncrasy. It is nevertheless irrationality. So he's saying a non-clear is irrational. That's okay, Lori. I understand. Irrationality is simply that, the inability to get right answers from data. This is going to get interesting, because now he's talking about the human mind being like a computer or a machine. Now, it is a curious thing that although everybody knows, parentheses, and what a horrible amount of misinformation that statement lets circulate. Misinformation. It is a curious thing that although everybody knows, and that's misinformation. That statement okay. It is human to err. The sentient portion of the mind which computes the answers to problems and which makes man man is utterly incapable of error. So he's saying a clear should be utterly incapable of error. Then why do they punish error so well? I mean, that might be why. I think Lori might already be gone. She was just popping in too. Um. So, oh, Lori, remember? I don't know. Were you here last time? Last week? Oh gosh, sorry about the camera, guys. When I try to stop it, it gets worse. We were discussing the fact that we were pretty sure he was on something, or there was a couple of conditions he might have that just make you a proliferate writer. But he did this in the 50s, and I don't know if you remember. I watch a lot of history. I don't know how big it was in the United States, but I know Hitler gave his World War II soldiers amphetamines to keep them going, and we know in Vietnam drugs were big. I'm wondering if amphetamines weren't a thing with our soldiers too. That's okay, Lori. Um, I will say, Lori, the first week was the weirdest because the introduction or how to read the book was the worst thing I've ever read. Now, once we got into the first chapter, it kind of made sense, more sense. And what I'm getting so far, and I wanted to know why I'm doing this, is what made people read this and think, I need this, or I want to know more, or go to a Dianetics center. And all I'm seeing so far is that he's promising to fix you. That anything wrong with you, he can fix through Dianetics. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be it throughout the book. All right. We're almost done with this chapter. All right. So he says, man is utterly incapable of error. This was a startling discovery when it was made. Now, the way he says this, when it was made, he doesn't say when I made it. He makes it kind of sound like researchers or somebody figured this stuff out. It wasn't just him writing a book. The actual computing ability of man is never in error, even in a very severely aberrated person. Now, he goes through here and just goes into examples. We don't need that. Any person, aberrated or clear, computes perfectly on the data stored and perceived. Take any common calculating machine, and the mind is an exceptionally magnificent instrument, far, far superior to any machine it will invent for ages to come. So he's saying our mind is superior to any machine. I do make the joke whenever we have a computer problem. I'm always like, somebody will say, well, computers are supposed to be so great. I'm like, well, computers are only as good as the person that programmed it. So, I don't have I guess a high reliability on machines because of that. I think the love bombing makes people weak. Yeah, because that's what also goes on is he's telling everyone how great they can be. Also, when they, go into the orgs, they get love bombed. We love you, spend some money. You're great, but we can help you. You have some problems. So, like I said, he wrote this after World War II. It was published in the 50s, but it was big in the 60s and 70s as a new psychotherapy. Because, it looked like a lot of hippie type people got into this because they were like, we don't need psychiatrists. This was like a new age thing. They were telling us our brain was magnificent. Or I shouldn't say they. If 40 people tell me I'm fabulous, then tell me the book is great, I'd believe the love bombers. Yeah. Okay. But I like how he talks about they and them all the time. Like it wasn't just created by him only. You find that out later, I guess. Um, so it goes through things a machine can do and why it's wrong because it was given the wrong data. I'm weak, damn it. Oh, I've had that happen too, where somebody did that and then the knife in the back. But I learned. Luckily, it happened in my 20s. Now I can see crazy a mile away. Now I'm like, if they try to love bomb me, I'm like, sure. Let's see where this goes. Okay, so it says 10 times 10 is 700 because it was given wrong data. But is the calculating portion of the machine really wrong, or is it merely being fed the wrong data? So he's saying that the mind can compute better than a machine, and the only reason we're wrong is we're given wrong data. In the same way, the human mind is prey to incorrect data. Incorrect data gets into the machine. The machine gives wrong answers. Incorrect data enters the human memory banks. The person reacts in an abnormal manner. Essentially, the problem of resolving aberration is the problem of finding the incorrect. He doesn't say this, the incorrect data. He goes through a much longer explanation, but that's pretty much what he means. And the basic purposes of that mind and the basic nature of man, as discoverable in the clear, are constructive and good, uniformly constructive and uniformly good, modified only by observation, education, and viewpoint. Man is good. So if anybody has self-doubt or depression or any of those, wants to feel they belong, he's telling them that they're good. It's only the data that's incorrect. You're fine. We'll fix you. Take away his basic aberrations, and with them go the evil of which the scholastic and the moralist were so fond. The only detachable portion of him is the evil portion, and when it is detached, his personality and vigor intensify, and he is glad to see the evil portion go because it was physical pain. I remember during when Jamie Mustard was on and Becky and all early on, they were talking about how people, the reason they become addicts is they're trying to medicate the pain. So he's saying that they can get rid of the physical pain or whatever, and mental. The clear then is not an adjusted person, driven to activity by his repressions, now thoroughly encisted. I don't know that word. He is an unrepressed person operating on self-determinism. So he's not a repressed person anymore. Just he's using big words to say it. So I guess you're able to let's read what he says about self-determinism. Is the state herein the individual can or cannot be controlled by his environment according to his own choice. He is confident in his interpersonal relationships. He reasons but does not need to react. Okay. And his abilities to perceive, recall, return, imagine, create, and compute are outlined as we have seen. The clear is the goal in Dianetic therapy. Any person can be cleared unless he has been so unfortunate as to have a large portion of his brain removed or to have been born with a grossly malformed nervous structure. We have seen the goal of Dianetics here. Let us now inspect the goal of man. So that's it. And the next chapter is the goal of man. So, again, we're pretty much seeing why this would be interesting to people that don't know any better about Scientology. If I were to read this, maybe after the gobbledygook part, and I didn't know anything about Scientology, it might very well interest me. Because everybody has problems. He covered every problem there can be, other than physical ailments like, you were born missing an arm, or, you've, I could go on. But he doesn't cover physical disabilities. He's only covering what the mind can cure and senses. So, being the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, psychotherapy, psychiatry, mental health was way different than it is now. It wasn't as talked about, it was repressed. Most people didn't go see a doctor about it. So they read this book and they're like, oh, this can fix me and I don't have to go to a psychiatrist. Or, oh, there's nothing really wrong with me, I just have to learn to go clear. So now we see why going clear is so important. We hear the ex-members talk about being clear, the cognitive statement they're supposed to say, but we've really never delved into what is going clear. What does it entail? What does it help? What does it fix? What does it mean? Okay, Lori. I wonder if he ever laughed and wonder if anyone would buy into this nonsense. No problem, Lori. But they did. That's why I'm here, because it really what brought me. I had always played around with, I wanted to read it on my own, but the reason I kind of wanted to do it more public is that I know there are other people that feel the same way with me, that the never ends. That, when it was Mitch Brisker, because he's one of the oldest people that I watch. I don't watch a lot of the other older channels like Janice and stuff. I've seen her on interviews, and there's just so much to watch. So I was curious so I'm curious to the parents who put their kids in it, the second and third gens. So those would be parents that entered 60s, 70s, 80s time frame. And Mitch Brisker's time frame, and he said, LA was different. Berkeley, they got college students, it was like all I don't know, I was born in 69, so I always say I was born in the summer of love. It was actually right before that. I found it in some stuff, a leopard print onesie. So, yeah. But when Mitch Brister said, it was that time, and, I read Dianetics, I got into Dianetics, that's how I got in, and a lot of them say that. So, back then, mental health wasn't widely talked about. And it's really just the last decade or so that it's okay to talk about mental health. And although a lot of people are like, mental health problems doesn't give you an excuse to do bad things. Unless you're schizophrenic and you absolutely see things that aren't there. My husband, when he was working the motels in North Austin, there was a guy there that was schizophrenic and didn't take meds, but he ran a very lucrative business. And he's like, how do you do it? And he says, now he would spend, the reason he ended up at Motel 6 is he would spend all his money on drugs, and then when he had a good week, he'd go to the Marriott. So he didn't have an apartment, he just stayed in hotels and that's it. He didn't have a lot of material possessions. But he said, when I see something freaky, I know it's not, I tell myself it's not real. I know it's not real, and I ignore it. But he did have weeks where he self-medicated. So, like I said, yeah, we know, being already informed on the the crackpot ideas in Scientology, but the ex-members were in there for a reason. Their parents were in there for a reason, and were curious, what was so, I can't think of the word I wanted. What was so great about Dianetics? Now, being that it's hard to read and hard to understand, they had Dianetic centers, and it says if you go to Dianetic centers, they will teach you how to read, how to work Dianetics. And then that's where you learn to go clear. And then you think you're all fixed. But we know that you're not. I would love to find out what people thought about the fact that they still had to wear glasses after this. So, all right, everybody. I will try to make sure it's 3 p.m. next Sunday, and we'll read. Are they numbered? They're not really numbered. Chapter 3, The Goal of Man. And let's see how long that is. Ooh, my. That one's long. Ooh, that's long. Yeah, I'll definitely have to pare that down. It's pretty long. So, I hope to be out this week. Let's see, what's the date? Probably towards the end of the week I'll be back in Austin. Then I'll be back on my regular schedule. I had to take the break. I had an asthma. The last live I did, I've never wheezed during an asthma attack before. I'm a quiet, and they don't get so bad. I've never gone to the hospital. I have very mild asthma, but the humidity here has been outrageous. And I'm just not, being here for 30 years, I'm just not used to it anymore. I grew up up north where there's tons of humidity. And I didn't get diagnosed with asthma until my 30s, so. Hang on, did the dogs wake you up? I couldn't let them be out here. They would have jumped up here on my camera. I'm done now. It's over. So I will see y'all sometime next week, and have a good rest of your weekend.